Call the honourable member for Denison.
Madam Speaker, my question is to the Prime Minister. Prime Minister, federal government subsidies for Bass Strait will be pocketed by the Port of Melbourne in skyrocketing port fees. This is in addition to the licence fee imposed by the Victorian government, which is a tax on interstate trade and unconstitutional. The previous Tasmanian government was of that view, but too spineless to act. Prime Minister, will your government intervene and bring the shysters in Victoria to heel by forcing them to drop their unconstitutional tax?
I call the honourable the Prime Minister.
Well, Madam Speaker,
I point out he's not.
Do thank the member for Denison for his question, and it gives me
Prime
the chance to.
I would say that I'm allowing the question to stand, although it does tend to ask for a legal opinion, which is not in order, and so you can ignore that part of the question and answer the rest.
Well, thank you, Madam Speaker, and it's good that you've extended some licence to the member for Denison, because he has asked a question which I think is of interest to a number of members of this House. Certainly, the member for Lyons, the member for Braddon, the member for Bass, all of whom have been fighting hard for the people of Tasmania, and as a result of their hard work for the people of their constituencies and for the people of Tasmania, this government has extended the freight equalisation scheme to the ever-growing exports of the great island of Tasmania, the ever-growing exports of that great state beyond Melbourne, beyond the Australian mainland, Madam Speaker. That's what we want to do. We want to encourage Tasmania to be an exporter, not just to Australia, but to the wider world. That's what we want to do, and that's why we've extended the freight equalisation scheme to exports. This coalition that I lead is a very good friend of Tasmania. It was the Fraser government which first introduced the freight equalisation scheme. It was the Howard government which helped the movement of passengers from Tasmania, and now this government has extended the freight equalisation scheme to exports beyond the mainland, Madam Speaker. So it's a very good initiative from this government. It was worked for by the members for Lyons, for Bass, for Braddon, and I know it was welcomed by the member for Denison. Now, there is an issue. The member for Denison is quite right. There is an issue. The Victorian Labor government is slugging the exports of Tasmania. That's the only way to describe it. The Victorian Labor government is penalising the exporters of Tasmania by ever-increasing fees and charges in the Port of Melbourne. Well, I share the member for Denison's dismay. I share the dismay of all the Tasmanian members of this House at what the Victorian Labor government is doing. And, Madam Speaker, if the Leader of the Opposition wants to be useful, if he really wants to be useful, as well as telling us his plans for Australia tonight, he might get on the blower to Daniel Andrews this very afternoon and say, stop ripping off the exporters of Tasmania. Just for once, suddenly he's interested in his notes, isn't he? It's funny how he looks down and starts playing with his papers. Whenever he's asked to do something useful, pick up the phone to Daniel Andrews and get these unfair taxes and charges.